Thank you all so much. Nothing is more daunting than watching the participants grow. So I want to thank you all for that. And today we're going to be talking about engaging safety in workplace culture through technology, something that's I'm very passionate about, especially because with my line of work, with safety and health consulting and training, it's something that we talk about is safety is a culture. And so making sure that everybody is engaged because we know that complacency kills. Okay, so as I mentioned, I'm Laura Ashley, Executive Partner and Director of Business Operations at Poland Services in Casper, Wyoming. Today, this overview of our training, this is a training I offer, but I've condensed this into a high-level action-packed hour. So there will be some gaps in the process, but I'm always available if you have any questions in regard to this, and hopefully we'll have some time at the end where we can answer a few more questions. This presentation today is a learning opportunity for all of you, and which I would hope any presentation you attend today does inspire something new. Regardless of what you think and what you want, technology is the new face of the industry. New workers are entering into the industry, and all they know is technology. So we must evolve. However, we also need to know what makes a culture and how do we engage our teams, especially using technology, since this is now part of theirs and our everyday life. So today we're going to overview what technology and culture are defined as. We'll talk about safety and workplace culture, including what motivates people to be engaged and what basic needs must be met in order for the employee to succeed. And then finally, we'll jump right into technology, which those goals are going to be to create employee engagement and accountability, for supervisory involvement and growth, and for companies' efficiency and profit. Although I would love to tap in how to get your clients and customers to utilize technology for your benefit, today we're just going to be speaking specifically about employees and the company itself. I will be mentioning a variety of programs and applications, and I have to really stress the importance that we are not sponsored by this or affiliated with any of the tech companies or products I mentioned, but these are most commonly used, and I have personally used my business and helping people set up their businesses as well, and they also come with some of the best ratings. Before you jump into purchasing any of these products, I really recommend doing your own research and seeing what would work best for you and your team, and which we will definitely be discussing further along the line. Okay, so before we start, let's pause, take a deep breath, relax, and know that in an hour, there is no way that I can show you how to do everything. What I can show you is the steps to engagement. We are on an eternal hunt to find the perfect tool or platform to better our business and our workforce. However, it is imperative that I stress the importance of this presentation being human behavior focused. I can show you all the technology tools you can use, but until you understand the foundations and motivations of yourself, your team, your clients, your investment in tech will strictly be in vain. So it's okay to embrace the old and the new, combining the two to make an equitable, safe workplace culture. So let's go ahead and move on. Our goal today is going to be using technology to our advantage for real-time interaction and to create an interactive and efficient system for accountability and transparency for all who are involved. You have to forgive me, I worked corporate for a long time and we love those buzzwords. So before we can spend time on what we need, we have to hit the foundations of safety and workplace programs and the culture and what it currently looks like. This is the definition from Merriam-Webster's Dictionary on Culture. I really want to focus on B, the set of shared attitudes, values, goals, and practices that characterize an institution or organization. Safety in workplace culture is usually thought of as the way we do things around here, and it reflects how we collectively value safety in the workplace. I know most of you have probably noticed the shift in perception of safety in workplace cultures just with even the last year. There's been a major focus on making sure that the culture in a company or in a corporation and a business is just as important as the process and the procedures that we do for our everyday tasks and operations. The social environments, like the values, conventions, or social practices that people work with and around, are just as important now to what their job is and where they work. So basically, this is telling us it's not just working for a big name company with a big name job title. It's working for a place and for people that you're proud to be associated with. This is an excerpt from an article that talks about organizational culture and the implementation of it from 1999. I wanted to use this as an example of how long the talk of culture has existed. It's not just a new idea. It's something that has been a focus for organizations longer than just the last year's 2020 eye-opening shutdown moments of the pandemic. And as much as we want to blame the ideals of workplace culture on the millennials, it's not the millennials. The term safety culture was first used in the INSAG's 1986 summary report on post-accident review meeting on the Chernobyl accident. That is a tongue twister. And it's where it described how the attitudes and characteristics of the company, AKA the safety culture, had adverse effects on the priority of the nuclear plant safety. It has become evident that broken safety cultures are responsible for many of the major safety disasters that have taken place around the world for over the past 20 years or more. So let's talk about how this happens. It's found in a broken culture. Post-incident reviews identified some characteristics and behaviors that attributed to these failures. Some of these may feel very familiar. So profit before safety. And this is where productivity always comes before safety, and safety is viewed as a cost and not an investment. Productivity is a goal, while safety is a culture. Fear. Problems or concerns remain hidden as they are driven underground by those trying to avoid restrictions or reprimands. So everyone's like, don't ask, don't tell kind of thing, which is always a bad idea. Ineffective leadership. This is where leadership and the prevailing corporate culture or business culture prevents the recognition of risks and opportunities, leading to the wrong safety decisions being made at the wrong time for the wrong reasons. Non-compliance to standards. So this is going to be the rules and procedures by managers in the workforce are being not met where they need to be. Miscommunication. This is where critical safety information has not been relayed to the decision makers or even being passed down to the right people, or the message is just simply being diluted. Competency failures. This is where false expectations or misunderstandings that employees or even contractors or even the leadership are highly trained and competent. Ignoring lessons learned, where safety critical information was not extracted, shared, or enforced. And last but not least, tough guy attributes like unwillingness to admit ignorance, admit mistakes, or ask for help. And this can undermine safety culture and productivity by interfering with the exchange of useful information. There's actually a case that was just released and it caused a death on an oil rig because the subcontractor came on and started bullying everybody around, and the foreman wouldn't stand up for it. And one of the gentlemen who was at the top of the rig ended up getting killed because the subcontractor said, "Oh no, it's okay, he can stay up there. What are you, scared?" And then the guy was like, "Of course I'm not scared." Unfortunately, that happened. All right, so I know many of you have probably been involved in the development of safety or workplace programs and probably have participated in the implementation of a new safety or workplace program as well. Now, many of you are also working in a company, probably currently, that has existing safety and workplace programs. So let's talk about what a successful program does look like. A successful safety and workplace program is where the company develops a program to make it relevant to your company, the work type, and future goals. Nothing is more frustrating than when you're being told that you have to follow certain safety, health, or environmental expectations that really do not apply to your company or your work type, but simply because it was just written into a canned policy. So then you have to add that additional training. There are some standards that we know are set by OSHA and other regulations that everyone should be aware of, even if you don't have direct contact with, like bloodborne pathogens, etc. And with something that it is still essential and something that will help you in the long run with your own business life as well as your personal life, because it does affect you in some way. Next, this one is essential: leadership and management involvement. I can tell you that in my 20 years, the number one complaint I get from employees is the fact that their leadership and their management or supervisors are not even involved or required to attend the same trainings or functions that they have to. Sometimes it's because the leadership may be in a different course that's more focusing on being a leader, but this isn't being translated to the employees. I will tell you though, 9 times out of 10, most leadership feel that they're above it all. So my question for you is, how can you have corrective conversations with those around you if you don't know the information that they're learning? If you have someone bring forward a safety concern or a workplace concern or a health concern, you have no idea what that looks like, and how can you make a well-informed and timely decision? Your behaviors should truly reflect what you expect from your employees or your coworkers, and it should also reflect the company's programs and values. Involvement from the upper management and leadership is what helps build a culture. So, as we say, inspect what you expect. Next, you do not have a business if you do not have workers or employee participation and engagement. And that's what we're talking about today. This is what we are going to make sure we're focusing on and getting their engagement utilizing technology. There's lots of other ways to do it, and some are less successful as others, but we want to talk specifically about technology because it has been proven to be successful. Last but not least, consistency is key, and having scheduled and easy to follow programs lead to success. And it takes about 2 years when you implement a program to see revolving behaviors. And pretty soon you'll start to notice that it's not a task or that a have to do item, but now it's becoming a behavior and just part of the job. They're even looking forward to it. When I'm working with companies in the beginning to help them set up like their safety and health and workplace programs, the hardest question I get asked, or I ask, is when can we set up your trainings? Everyone feels like they're putting everyone out when they have to decide on a time and day. It's just like asking your friend where they want to go for lunch and what time. If you already have these dates implemented and scheduled, it'll take a few years, but pretty soon it'll become a behavior, because truthfully, safety should be an everyday mentality. And safety trainings, unfortunately, are spread out further within the year, but this also helps it to be scheduled. Because of the gap in time between the trainings and meetings, they can take a little bit longer to create the good habits, but if you set a schedule and you stick to it, it'll work. So look at your safety and health and workplace program meetings or trainings as being requirements to help the everyday operations. They're a great time for your employees, your company, and your leadership and management to meet together and have a meeting that is truly focused. Please do not save this for the barbecues. Don't save it for the company parties. Save it truly for the scheduled times, be it monthly, quarterly, annually, and that way it sets the importance of the event. Remember, just as we spoke of previously, that safety and workplace culture is usually thought of as the way we do things around here. It reflects how everyone collectively values the importance of safety and the workplace. Nearly 85% of employees worldwide are still not engaged or are disengaged at work despite more efforts from companies. Now that scares me personally, because that's telling me that people are not paying attention. And it's also probably not a very good place to work, but we know that complacent people will exist. But unfortunately, as I mentioned before, complacency kills. Workplace programs failures come from the misconception that it is an HR or human resources requirement. Sometimes it even gets handed off to the accountant. In the turn, the program is not owned by the leaders. When these programs are not expected of the management, it's definitely not understood by its employees. Instead of simply engaging the management and leadership, the result is that some companies believe they've just exhausted all of their engagement resources and they give up. Majority of the time, companies and leaders are going to look at how to shift the blame because they want to believe that it's their fault or that it's not their fault. So they might blame the tool or the technology. It's easy to blame something else. They'll blame the measurement, that the way that the poll was done or the survey was overviewed, and they'll even blame the philosophy of either the prior administration or leadership, which I'm sure some of us have heard before, or even environmental factors that they believe make the problems unique. So if it's a remote location, if they only have a couple people in the office, they'll start to blame that. I hope that this explains a little bit more of why I have not just busted into the technology portion of this presentation yet. So implementing new tools or technology into a broken culture is a waste of resources, especially if you don't understand the programs or have everybody's buy-in. So let's just talk about these common mistakes when implementing the employee engagement programs. So if it's not owned by the leadership and management, once again, stressing the importance of this. How do you grow a team? How do you lead by example? How do you set goals? How do you have those hard conversations or even identify those risks or hazards? You're not even involved or setting expectations. Sometimes these programs can be too complicated and lots of procedures. So there's lots of steps. It's like playing a game of Mario's world or whatever. We're going to date ourselves on this one. So you have to like jump through hoops of fire. And once you jump through that hoop of fire, then you got to spin and you got to tell a partner. And then everybody's confused. And then the leadership gets frustrated because they're like, we told you how to do it. We have to make it simplified. Leadership can make metrics, engagement metrics, far too complicated by focusing on predictors that are often outside of management control. So we know that we can control how clean an employee keeps their workspace, but sometimes human error is just unavoidable. And so these metrics typically do not relate to the employee's core needs at work. Incorrect metrics to measure engagement. Are we measuring satisfaction or true engagement? Company leaders should take a hard look at how the engagement survey tool they are currently using. Does the survey only ask employees, like, how do they feel about various aspects of the work environment? Or does it also assess employees' feelings of energy, enthusiasm, and passion for their work? I'm sure you can think of unrealistic expectations from leadership or your company and how it challenged your ethics or even what you considered your needs at work. Like working for a company that stresses the importance of self-care, but yet calls you on your personal phone all hours of the days and night, or even when you want to take your vacation time and they're stressing that you take your vacation time and then they panic when you use that vacation time. Or this is my favorite, the zero incident goals. By implementing this, you run into the possibility of a broken culture fueled by fear of reporting near misses, which then could lead to a traumatic incident and possibly the death of a worker. The overuse of surveys. I do like surveys, but sometimes they can be too many and they lose their value. Every time we go onto a web page, I don't know if you guys notice this, they're like, would you like to take a survey? And half the time we're like, no, thank you. So they overuse these poll surveys to get immediate feedback because they feel like they need that. And then they rarely take actions on the results, or they take too much action and it becomes like a witch hunt. I personally am neutral about implementing surveys only because of the anonymity can empower people in bad ways, but it also can provide a safe place for people to complain or file complaints. I have personally witnessed management going on those witch hunts, trying to find who gave them a poor rating. I feel if surveys are to be implemented, then a training on how to take negative feedback is imperative. All right, so everyone has a fun fact about themselves, and I get to share mine because I have the microphone. And it's usually only fun for the person who's speaking. My fun fact is I love to read regulations and policies for fun, but also meta-analysis reports like Gallup polls they're my jam. So I found the Gallup's 10th employee meta-analysis report on employee engagement extremely interesting. So this poll was released in October 2020. And what they did is they polled 12,312 companies, 2,708,538 people, and 54 industries. And they also took it from 96 countries. Now, my first takeaway was that 54 industries were polled. And I'm sure there are more than that, but that is a lot of industries and a lot of different programs and a ton of different cultures to navigate. I worked in several different industries in my career. I've worked in retail, I've worked in the salon and beauty industry, I've worked in government, I've worked now in the oil and gas industry and general construction, and everything is different. The only thing they have in common is they all complain about dress code. That's the one thing I can tell you. So Gallup studied 11 outcomes, and they were ranging from customer loyalty, engagement, profitability, productivity, turnover, safety incidents, absenteeism, shrinkage, which is also loss prevention, patient safety incidents, quality index, well-being, and organizational citizenship. Now, I want to pause for a second on that last one. Organizational citizenship is another definition of culture, but the individual's viewpoint and how do they view their place in the organization. When Gallup does their polls, they use a formula to quantify a person per productivity rate. So what they do is they take talent, which is going to be your people, and then they multiply that by the relationship plus the right expectation, plus recognition and reward. So they're taking a look at how people view themselves, how they believe they're viewed, and the way that they want to be viewed within the company. For my years working with companies and their employees, as well as the leadership, I'll tell you that this genuinely starts with hiring the right person for the right job. And I'm sure many of you will agree. It's not just a body to fill a spot. Just like safety, health, and workplace programs are not developed to check off of a box, and when we hire out of desperation, we can tend to attract some interesting characters. We know that after employees are hired, they make their own decisions. They'll tell you everything they want in the interview, but they will make their own decisions. And then they take actions every day that can affect the success of the organization or their companies. And many of these decisions and actions are truly influenced by their own internal motivations and drives. So basically, people will do what people feel they should do, even if it's not the right thing to do. We can hypothesize that the way employees are treated and the way that they treat one another can positively affect their actions, or it can place their businesses or the companies at risk. For example, researchers have found that a positive relationship between workplace attitudes, service intentions, customer perceptions, and individual performance reveal a substantial relationship between the individual employee job satisfaction and performance. So that's a lot of words to just say people feel valued by their company and leadership and their coworkers and customers or clients. If they feel that value, they're more likely to have a better attitude and performance, which equals engagement. So when an employee does not feel appreciated, valued, inspired, or safe, it can cause a fracture in the company dynamics, which affects operations and most importantly, the culture. Majority of my conversations as a supervisor or field manager involved complaints about people not doing their jobs correctly or safely. To this day, I still have people telling me that they don't feel safe at their jobs because the management and leadership and their coworkers are not engaged or being present. I'm sure some of you, most of you, I will say, know the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. This is one of my favorite charts to kind of go off of. It may be outdated for some, but what I really like is that it recognizes the 5 steps of needs. So it's a 5-step pyramid and each level supporting the next. So in order to engage and grow your employees or yourself in your career, you must meet those first 3 levels before your confidence grows, which is your esteem. So once it's built up enough, then you can take the next step. What's important to remember is that there's a difference between a deficiency need and a growth need. Deficiency is something we're lacking. A growth is something that we need to build ourselves bigger or grow more in our acumen. So if you or your employee is spending time filling those deficiency needs, then those who are wanting to grow may be left behind, and that's where they become actively disengaged. So if you're having to spend a lot of time teaching Sally how to use a mouse, while Billy is ready to go take on the world and he can build all the spreadsheets in the world, then we need to make sure that we identify that and how do we address each of those situations. All right, these are the questions that they asked from the Gallup poll, and these are 12 core questions. Now, before I get into this, I want to stress the fact that some of these questions may be a little off-putting to some of you because a lot of us are working for a specific reason versus working for another reason. So it was very fascinating to me to identify these. I know what is expected of me at work. Are we giving our people the information that they need to be able to create their jobs? So do we have roles, responsibilities, and division of responsibilities laid out? I have the materials and equipment I need to do at my work right. Do you not have paper? Do you not have a computer? Do you not have all of the tools that you need that are necessary? Are people having to share work trucks? That's what it looks like. So at work, I have opportunity to do what I do best every day. Are we truly hiring people for the right job? Are we placing them in the right job? Are we promoting them internally to the right job? Are we utilizing them for the best that they do? In the last 7 days, I've received recognition or praise for doing good work. This is huge because I'm a person who likes feedback, and be it positive feedback or negative feedback, I want to know. And I believe that majority of the world out there also feels that, but who doesn't like to know when you're doing a great job? My supervisor or someone at work seems to care about me as a person. When's the last time you've connected with an employee or a coworker? When's the last time you've actually made somebody feel that their job presence is important? There's someone at work who encourages my development. Do we have a mentorship program? Do we have leaders checking in? What about coworkers? Do we have a buddy system? At work, my opinions seem to count. Those safety meetings that are scheduled are so important. They give people the chance to be able to speak. Business meetings in general. So are we doing that? Do we have like a comment box? Do we have an email that they can send it to? Are they feeling safe and not feeling reprimanded? When somebody asks a question or gives an opinion, are they met with, well, we do it this way because this, this, and this? Or are they saying, thank you, we'll take that into consideration, the nice customer service way. The mission or purpose of my company makes me feel my job is important. Once again, it's more important of what your business reflects, what the company reflects, than it is who you're working for. People will work for Google if Google has good ethics. My associates or fellow employees are committed to doing quality work. Nothing was worse than in junior high and high school when you had to work in partners and you knew you got partnered with that one person who you're like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to do all the work. So we want to make sure that we are holding everybody in equitable. So equity versus being equal. So equity, making sure that they're all having that same value. I have a best friend at work. This is the one that throws everybody off. I did this speech at our presentation at an oil and gas convention, and that was the big one that they just kind of smirked at. But the truth is they all have that. They have their buddy who they go hunting with. So this is something that's so important, is this is how you get your support. This is how you have your feeling your self-worth. In the last 6 months, someone at work has talked to me about my progress. Annual reviews, midterm reviews, mid-year reviews, whatever you want to call it. This is essential to helping somebody grow. Constant and critical and, or not critical, but constant and critiquing and making sure that we have really good feedback for our employees, for ourselves, is so essential. This last year, I have had opportunities at work to learn and grow. So are we allowing our employees to be able to show off? Are we internally promoting versus externally hiring? Are we developing people within there? So, okay, I know. And as much as I would love to, we're not here to discuss the history of safety culture. These are actually all the terms that I've ever heard about workplace programs, safety and workplace programs in general. They're an annoyance. We can go through the whole list, but obviously you guys can read that yourself. I'm just going to tell you that we're not here to discuss the history of safety culture or how it's going to be, but we want to talk about how we develop and build engagement with our safety and workplace culture by utilizing technology that we already have available to us. But to show you that from 1989, from the Chernobyl accident till now, we've had huge advancements in technology to allow us to better communicate with each other and streamline processes. You do not have to reinvent the wheel. You do not have to spend millions of dollars. This truly comes down to spending the time and making the investment in training and setting expectations revolving around the technology, but also following through with the implementation of these safety, health, and workplace programs to help your employees and your coworkers, your supervisors, your clients, your company just better succeed and evolve. An effective program is going to increase productivity, reduce time away from work, internal growth promotions, employee longevity, etc. You can read that. So we're going to wrap up this section. Before we can utilize tools like technology, we need to understand our people and develop them, as well as implement an effective program. All right, you're probably asking yourself, hey, Laura, when are you going to do this whole conversation? Where's the technology? Once again, and I'll say this a million times, if you don't understand people, then you're trying to engage and you don't connect with them, then you're just simply wasting your time on money and technology that no one uses. I don't know about you guys, but majority of the time when I'm talking to people about emails, and I hope you're not one of these, and if you are, we can talk later. There's emails that are just simply used for spam or to get their coupons or their fantasy football teams. I'll say, hey, I sent you an email. Oh, I don't check my email. Well, I need you to check your email. And then there's cell phones that are used only to make calls or just for decorations. We have computers that are running on Office 2010. So let's step away from that nightmare and let's get to the meat of this presentation. If you have a smartphone, you may pull it out. Although I know you've probably been on it looking at your social media and doing all your things because, hey, we're all guilty of it. It's in our hands. What I want you to know is that everything I'm going to talk about is accessible through not only a smartphone, but with the right training, applications, and programs, you can now begin to build your safety and workplace culture just simply in the palm of your hand. So technology within the workplace continues to allow businesses to improve communication with employees. In addition, technology can help you to expand your business more efficiently and quickly. So tools such as virtual technology, social networking, and online portals make employee engagement limitless. So technology brings in flexibility to the employees, it reduces duplication, it increases the pace of work, and also helps in customer engagement. All of these factors positively contribute to employee engagement. In the beginning, the workplace safety gods created safety and workplace procedures. And I like to believe safety procedures are right next to daily tasks. So aside from the normal duties of like timekeeping, such as clocking in and out, employees have responsibilities and daily paperwork and forms and procedures. And these can be daily task forms like JSAs, job safety analysis, or PPE hazard assessments, job hazard assessments, emergency action plans, driving logs, vehicle inspection reports, toolbox talks, reporting forms, etc. Whatever industry you're in, it might be different. Then we know that they're also responsible for having access to and hopefully keeping on their person important documentation like certifications such as H2S, safety or safe land orientations, OSHA 10s, OSHA 30s, first aid, etc. And then we also have the work service orders. Do they have permits? And then last but not least is internal communication. So newsletters, emails from upper management, incident reports, lessons learned, safety meetings, job updates. Is there going to be a potluck? I mean, everybody needs to know those things. I can only imagine that some of the stories you may have about these forms and certifications magically missing or being baptized with morning coffee or even being an afterthought. And I personally know the issues when these are not accessible by site foremen or hiring clients, HSE coordinators, or even superintendents. And it can even cause a stop work or result in dismissal from a job site. So what if I told you that the investment in smartphones, tablets, laptops, even printers could reduce stress, paper usage, time, and engage those employees? And it's putting the power back in their hands and increasing production times. So let's talk about what the key elements found in technology being used for employee engagement. We know that it encourages collaborative working. So with today's technologies, it's easy to use professional social media and collaboration tools to keep up to date on projects instantaneously. So the use of technology helps us to boost employee engagement by allowing more and better communication between employees, no matter where they may be. So having an online or a cloud-based community helps increase communication and connections that otherwise would not be available. Using gamification. So a key issue within training, that's what we specialize here, is in general that generating enough motivation so that the attendees will want to invest the time and effort that's required to learn. So gamification makes practical day-to-day activities more compelling, and it uses appropriately, when used appropriately, it can boost participation rates in e-learning courses and increase employee motivation. There's some amazing virtual reality trainings out there right now. It's the wave of the future, and it's shown just amazing promise in statistics. So the normal student retains 20% of what they hear. So today, I am not going to fault you for only remembering 20% of what they hear. If I could have made a game for you, I would have. But then if you add in something that they're doing with hands-on, they'll retain 80% of what they learn by doing it either through like a tabletop exercise or computer-based gaming or even the virtual reality. Allows personal tools at work, aka personal devices. This is one of my favorite options to present to a business, is saying you should allow your employees to use their own personal tools. For one thing, it'll save you money. You can create the VPNs. You can make a bring your own device program, always making sure to have a good policy that hands in hands with it. And the truth is that majority of professionals will use 2 to 3 work and personal devices in their daily lives. And about 60% of those would choose a device rather than a laptop for work and personal use, which we see that now. It's hard to teach somebody how to use a computer with a mouse, or even just how to type in general. 70% of HR professionals think that the Gen Y employees perform faster if they're allowed to use their own mobile devices instead of the computers. Peer-to-peer recognition. So 43% of workers cite lack of recognition as their biggest source of unhappiness at work. So the companies have identified this and they have started to adopt peer-to-peer recognition, as they call P2P, to boost employee engagement. And seriously, who doesn't like recognition? Creating a culture of recognition is truly a beautiful thing. And it creates a whole new attitude and outlook on the company as well as going to work. Mobile learning. This one is a big plus because when you're trying to schedule everybody for their trainings or meetings, what you're doing is you're trying to set it up like either in person, which is almost virtually impossible to get everybody, or you're doing it through a computer that there's only one computer in the entire office. Having the mobile learning gives that power back to the employee to be able to balance their life, to make their decision when they want to take it. And it helps them be able to access the content and complete training at the time, pace, and place that suits them. Okay, now this is the exciting part. Smartphones and tablets, we all have these. Unless you have a side gig that requires like those little flip burner phones. And I'm not even judging you on that one, but you can get smartphones on those plans now, just so you know. So smartphones are just what the name says. They are smart and they have almost replaced the home computers. I don't know if any of you have, and you've heard me talk about it a few times now. Have you ever tried to teach someone to use a mouse? It is one of the most difficult things to ever do. I spent a large majority of my time training as I would travel over the US, teaching people how to use computers. And because everybody's so used to a touch screen, and it would take away the training of the job because of the fact that I would have to do it. You can access video conference calls from your phone. You can take online courses from your phone. You can fill out forms, sign contracts, send messages, and order DoorDash all from your phone while you're on the clock. And it's incredible that this palm-sized tech can provide to us as employees, leaders, and owners. I have an activity that I do with my course attendees that I put into the presentation notes, which they're going to share on the Wyoming Department of Workforce website. And it's how to use your smartphone to scan documents into PDFs. It's one of my favorite activities because it's mind-blowing, especially to administration or workers out in the field, because trying to chase down a document, a paper document, can sometimes be almost impossible. So giving them that power of opening up the Notes app, taking a picture, scanning it and emailing it or dropping it into the shared drive, it's eye-opening to them. Obviously, I have to say this because I am in risk management. Rules need to be applied, and it's always important to set the expectations through a well thought out policy. Okay, it still surprises me when I'm working with an individual and they don't know how to use a computer or laptop. I think I've said that a billion times, but it's truly the fear of change that keeps them from moving forward. And that's why training programs and tech mentors within your company are essential for helping Bob or Sally learn how to use a mouse. I have examples of where I had a manager and she kept sending me the weirdest emails where the whole subject was in, or her whole body of the email was in the subject line. And that's when I realized that she had been a technical trained person and never really used technology. And so showing her how to do it and taking the time, YouTube videos, all of a sudden her profits increased, her engagement with her employees increased, and it was a huge sign because she felt that she could be involved in it. A lot of times when you see people being disengaged, it could simply be that they're feeling overwhelmed by new processes. So it's imperative that anything that you guys implement, anything that anyone puts into these things, please make sure that your trainings are coming in with follow-ups with the individuals on their own to make sure they understand it and are applying it. So if they attend a training, you follow up. Computers are the most common virtual and web-based training tool, and most programs are set up to be viewed on a desktop or laptop. They're starting to move into the mobile devices, but majority are going to be that way. And then every workplace should have a common use computer that can be easily accessible. And please don't make it the administrative assistants. That's just frustrating for them on that end. Virtual and web-based trainings has the convenience of being on demand, which means your employees are able to maintain their normal workflow and schedule out training for when it's convenient for both the company and the individual. The key term is scheduling. The more the merrier is our viewpoint on software and applications, it seems lately. There's an app for that, and it's a running theme, and it is the truth. I have an app that I can take pictures of flowers and plants, and it'll tell me how to take care of it. And I have an app that'll help me sleep. So obviously there's apps for companies to help streamline their processes. These can be accessed through smartphones, tablets, computers. And the nice thing is that most business apps and software will host a walkthrough demo with you, and they help launch the program with your team so that way they can make sure it's being applied properly. There's lots of free programs out there, but just remember, because apps and software are a dime a dozen, they can be abandoned by the creator, and then all your information is just floating in cyberspace. I'm just kidding, but seriously, all your information will disappear. I found that out the hard way. So when you're looking at any of these apps, we'll talk a little bit about those here in a second. Social media. Oh, some of us may view it as a hindrance, but if it's used appropriately and efficiently, it's an amazing asset. So we know majority of social media is free. You can promote your business for free most of the time, unless you get a lot of followers and then that platform wants some of your money. I have personally used Facebook to create private members only pages for businesses for teams to communicate. You can do that now through Teams, through Google Chat or Google Meetings, but this is a great one too, because then you can kind of moderate it with being on the social media, and then you can remove people as necessary if they leave the company or add people. If you assign a moderator, it can usually stay pretty on task. And it's also optional, but it helps you identify who may not be super tech savvy or maybe on the verge of leaving the company. If they're not engaging, you can have the conversation of, hey, it's not mandatory, but can I show you how to do these things? Can I show you how to share a picture? It was really cool what you did last week. Just getting them to really be engaged. If you want to create a culture, you have to build it. And people love to show off where they work, and they love to show off their work. So usually we want to make sure that people who are moderating are going to be upper management, or maybe those who are aiming to climb the ladder, so possibly a stretch assignment. And then making sure, how do we get everyone involved? And that truly falls back onto the aspect of hiring the right people and participation from the leadership and management, and most importantly, quality training. Okay. This also will be on that document, so you'll be able to get these. As I mentioned previously, I have no affiliation or sponsorship or obligations to these companies or applications, except for monthly bills that I pay for them for majority of these. My suggestion is based off of experience and good reviews. And working with companies and participating in their trainings also helps to master the product. If you've had different experiences, I totally respect those, and I would love alternatives as well. People share with me all the time, and I think it's fantastic. And once again, as I tell my 15-year-old son, bring me solutions, not problems. You guys can coin that and take it and put it on a t-shirt if you want to. So as we break through this quickly, investing in a PDF creator and editor such as Adobe is fantastic. You can convert all those common use documents into PDFs, and then you're able to, let me move this guy out of the way, I just noticed. You can use those PDFs to ensure standardization and ease of access for the employees. You can prepare the forms so they're fillable. If you have any questions on that, Adobe does great tutorials. There's possibly some other PDF creators out there, and this will help keep your paper cost and frustration levels down. You convert those PDFs into fillable documents, and they can download them onto their devices. We've done this for some companies, giving them JSAs, timesheets, whatever, kind of helping them to streamline it. Obviously, there's a lot of apps and a lot of software out there, but if you're in for cost effectiveness, sometimes this is the way to start, and it creates the habit before you invest hundreds of thousands of dollars into software. Create a shared cloud drive where documents can be submitted real time and protected from being lost. So Google, Dropbox, shared drive, Teams, you can put spreadsheets in there that are shared and updated by the whole. And once again, training is imperative for everyone, because people can go in and delete out formulas. Don't be scared of that though. Don't control everything. Allow them to learn, and that way you can process it. And I do a really great training with this for Teams and Google to show you how to do that sheets, because you can leave comments in it. You can find those tutorials online as well, but it's something that has been just a lifesaver in any business that I'm dealing with. They just really love to see that real time timekeeping and documents being filled out. Record keeping will be more organized, protected, and it's easy to access because it's in the shared cloud drive. You can give access to specific people in specific locations, create different teams folders or group folders, and that way leadership is able to get into their folders, and then the employees or departments in the other ones. You can create multiple. Develop a bring your own device program to save cost and invest in a VPN. What I love about this is that it keeps everyone in the know, and avoids the loss of equipment. So most people feel more comfortable on their own phone, so they'll be able to access it a little bit better. You can have your IT or get an IT company to help you load it up, get a VPN in there. It's going to be protected, making sure that all the software and applications that they're using, that there isn't top secret information being shared across in that specific way, unless they're using that protected areas. But making sure also, what's nice about it is if they leave the company, then it's going to be not on your dime for that equipment. You can just cancel the VPN. The other thing too is people tend to take care of their things a little bit better. If they buy it, if they own it, they will take care of it. I once received a laptop covered in gum because they didn't really take great care of it. Monthly reimbursements or device discounts from participating providers. You can talk to Verizon or Sprint or AT&T, and they give great discounts. Sometimes it's 10 to 15% off. Sorry. Okay. Come on. Digital calendars and reminders and task lists. Hopefully most of you are used to using Google or Microsoft calendars. Teach your employees how to use it, making sure that they're scheduling out every quarter so that way they can see important dates. Once again, scheduling out those trainings, those meetings, everyone can see it. Have your employees themselves create their own tasks and mark off as needed to create ownership and accountability. And employees submit time off requests through calendar taps, digital recording, because sometimes those time off requests not everybody's going in there to look at the scheduling software, but if it's in a calendar and it gets submitted to you, you can see if Sally and Jim are taking off the same day, and making sure you don't have understaffing or meeting conflicts. SMS texting messaging systems. This is one of my favorite things to utilize, aside from everything else I say is my favorite. Google Teams, GroupMe, ClickSend have group chat features to send emails, documents, newsletters, memes, reminders, celebrations, and pictures to the group. Once again, everybody wants to feel recognized. It's a great area to do it. And then develop a digital and cyber security program, and making sure that everybody's being trained on this. Leveling up your company processes with hybrid meetings, video conferencing. We're doing that right now. It is so easy to do now. It keeps a digital roster for everything. If not everybody's able to attend the meeting in person, they can join virtually, and then you can see it. And what's nice about this is that digital roster, if you ever get audited by a company or whatever for safety meetings, you have that digital roster to be able to prove that your people were in fact there. Select employees to facilitate and bring the topics. This will help keeping people engaged, and it'll also keep, hopefully, that one person who likes to run the meeting all the time, maybe a little in check. And then record the meetings for all who missed it. LMS learning systems and CBTs, computer-based trainings. This is something that's huge right now that we're utilizing. When they are available online, and they can be accessed through mobile devices as well. But like we said, most of them are going to be computers or laptops. What's fun is have them screenshot their completion and then send it to the group chat for peer accountability. And it kind of creates a little bit of a contest, but it also helps the leaders be able to identify if their people are doing what they need to. Tech supportive safety workplace culture committees. So when you have a safety committee or a workplace committee, making sure that you have some tech savvy people on it to help support. So those tech mentors, and they should work hand in hand with the HSE coordinator or HR, making sure that the meeting topics are being met, but also if there's any resources that they can offer up. These can be volunteered or nominated. And I always say it's called voluntold, but acknowledgement, and then making sure that they're celebrated by the leadership and management. But it is not to replace the leadership or management involvement. So you can't step away just because you have a safety committee. You need to be involved with it as well. Okay, remember when I said 85% of employees are not engaged or are making the conscious decision to not be engaged? That was at the very beginning of this conversation. Well, here's the good news for you. A study was ran on 36 companies who implemented a safety and workplace technology-based program, and they found 65% improvement in morale, productivity, and communication of those who said that they were not engaged. So tools such as virtual technology, social networking, and online portals have provided limitless options for employee engagement. And we just need to provide the training. So making sure that we're getting the training, we follow up, and then follow through with our end of the bargain of making sure things are scheduled and make it a routine to make it successful. So I appreciate all of your time and focus on this. And if you'd like more information, obviously just give me a heads up. I am always here to help out with that. It's one of my passions is helping create the system. This is my information if you ever need it. And otherwise, that is the end of it. We can hopefully have enough time for questions.
Thank you, Laura, so very much. I just thought that was an excellent talk. I loved how you spent so much time talking about leadership and creating that culture. I totally agree with you. I think that's super important. Another takeaway for me was having tech mentors as you're rolling out anything new, even if it's something you think might be simple for you, it's likely not simple for everybody else. So I love that idea of a tech mentor. And thank you for sharing your contact information. I'm glad that got on the slide. I want to remind everybody there is a recording of this. So if you missed jotting it down, the recording will be posted in a couple days. So we have a couple comments in the chat coming in just to say thank you so much. Somebody commented earlier that they saw a lot of parallels when you mentioned safety is just that there's the sentiment of safety just being an HR thing. A person made a comment that they see parallels in their world of cybersecurity, that cybersecurity is just an IT thing. And really what you're talking about marries those two worlds to make it a cultural and hold everybody accountable and engaged in the process. So thanks for that. I'd like to invite anybody to turn on their camera and mic if they have a question they'd like to ask Laura directly. We have just 1 minute till the end of the session, but we can run over if we need to. A comment about still having issues with having disengagement while using Teams for safety meetings during COVID.
So one thing that I noticed with this is we can burn everybody out with video conferencing. It's been something we've been talking about is burnout does happen. The best trick I can give you for this is truly getting your team to be assigned specific areas. So assigning somebody to run a meeting one time, having two people being able to do it, not just always having the same voice. In my early stages, I was always running the meetings, which I think we find because we're like, oh, I know the information, it'll be faster. But if you actually assign it to your employees, your coworkers, your colleagues, and say, hey, will you take the first section? Will you do this? That really helps because they can come with the topic. So you can say, hey, this topic this month is going to be on housekeeping. Jerry, do you want to, I would love for you to do that. And so then Jerry can come and then he can come with 2 questions that he asks the group, but truly just asking everybody to be participating in it and letting go of that control as leadership and handing it off is the best advice I can give on that one.